All right, I guess today is just the day of things not working. Let me reactivate. There we go. We're back. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I don't know what was happening. Um yeah, my stream deck wasn't working. The camera had to reinitialize for some reason, but oh my god. Yeah, so like literally I'll show you guys what I saw on my end. Um Hang on. Let me load up the screenshot here. So this is what I saw on my end here when I was trying to go live. You can see here my go live button is grayed out, but it says I have an excellent connection. So I ended up having to redo, and I just told OBS to manually enter a stream URL. So I put in that and our stream key, and then it works. So something's going on with the YouTube servers. I don't know what ones OBS uses, but yeah. So anyways, is our weekly Q&A stream. We do these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, roughly. Usually we start right around 4:05, but today YouTube decided to throw me a curveball. But anyways, so we do have some new stuff. I just pushed a firmware update for the Soval SV1 Pro. That is now officially added in to not only our unified firmware with the stock board, but also for the easy board. So if you guys are looking to upgrade the board on that, we do have our easy board that's dropping replacement. These are on back order right now. We're about 1 to 2 weeks out right now. So I'm assuming the first or second week of April is when we'll have them. The one thing I did want to show is we did some updates to our easy firmware site. So if you guys look on the easy config, you'll now see more printer models listed here, and you will start seeing more of these, the V2 only. So obviously, since the V1 hasn't been sold for a while, we're not backporting old printers to them. So we do have that noted here, but we do have different options for different printers here. So if you wanted to go ahead and set up for the SV1 Pro, you can just tell it you got the stock sensor set up. So basically completely stock. This is what you'll get, and then you go through the little wizard here, set all the other stuff until you got a V2 board, and then just type in what you want. I'm just going to call this SV1 Pro test just to show you guys. It generates the config, and then once you submit it, it goes into the queue to be compiled. So, and you can see here other people's compiles. And if you do have like a failed compile, you can actually go in and look at the log files to determine why it failed compile. So, yeah. So, anyways, this is available for all of our EasyBoard customers, V1 and V2. I made some updates on here to add new models in that we supported in the firmware, but weren't in the easy config wizard. So as of this point, all the ones are in there, and we're going to make sure to keep that updated going forward. Oh no, I failed. What did I break? Do I have to patch the firmware I just patched or just updated? Let's see here. Why is it complaining? That's the regular log. Let's see. What did I break? What did I break here? Probe edge. The hell? I just test compiled this. All right, so I'll have to see why it's getting pissed off that this is not defined. Let's see. I'm willing to bet it's probably just the SV01 config that's broken. Let's just do a more basic one here. We'll do easy ABL, OEM mount. Oh, I did add more mounts in too, so those are updated. Let's see. Just watch there be another bug. It's always how it goes. You can test and test, and then all of a sudden, it just stops. Hang on. I'm not a robot. I think I'm not a robot. Let's find out. Let's do some troubleshooting right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put. I'm gonna make a compile folder here. That's how I do my test compiles. I pull right from my GitHub folder. And let's go ahead and open up VS Code. Let's see. Because I literally, you can see here, I already had this opened. Had this all set up and tested on the printer. I just carried the printer out of my office. So let's see. Oh wait, this is the Soval firmware. I want the EasyBoard V2 firmware. All right, let's see. So I should just mother of God. Let's just go ahead and tell we have SVO1 Pro. That should all be all we need here. All right. Just watch me something stupid with something on the server end. Because gosh darn it, I tested it. Unless I change it. I'll look into this later. I just want to see, I'm curious to see if this works. Because this is what I just tested with before I push the config. So yeah, we have if enables SVO1 Pro. That's disabled. It should be defining BL touch, the servo pin, the nozzle probe offset, all automatically. Because that's what that printer comes stock. I'm wondering if maybe I didn't pull in the full firmware. I guess today is one of those days. Let's see. Let me do a compare between my test code and the GitHub source files, which I just pulled these from, so there shouldn't be anything changed other than my configuration H file. Let's see. So yeah, there's no differences there. That's normal to see that. And then if I check the config file differences, we should only see the one line difference in the config H. I'm wondering, it could also be I might have to update PIO on our server side. Yeah, so there's only one difference. So let's see, did that pass compile? It's still going. But there's no errors being thrown. So I'm not sure why it's not happy. Solval SVO1 Pro. Let me look at the config file. Maybe when I didn't update. So there we go. It's not, yeah, it's just that printer config. So let's see. What does the configuration file look like? So SVO1, Solval SVO1 Pro. That's the name I have defined in here. Solval SVO1 Pro. Yep. So that's correct. CR Touch stock. That doesn't really do anything, which is fine. And it's got this here. Why is this not, why is that throwing an error? I'm wondering if I just got to pull in the, I think I got to pull the firmware in one more time. If all else fails, try turning it off and on again. Have you tried forcing an unexpected reboot? Let's see, let me pull in the firmware again to the site. And I'll reboot that box real quick. Alright, so the firmware site's down right now. It'll be back up in a sec. The VM it's on doesn't take long to reboot. But anyways, while we're waiting for that, I'll troubleshoot that offline. But we got some new stuff we're playing with. This is the MKS Monster 8. We will be selling these boards, so if you guys want a DIY-friendly board, we will be carrying these, and we will be doing firmware for these as well. And these will come bundled with 8 2209 drivers, along with these nice big heat sinks to put on the back of them to keep them cool. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. I just got these in yesterday, and these are really nice boards. So you got three fan controllable outputs, 3 always on fans, and then you've got 3 hot end outputs, which you can use for hot ends, fans, or whatever. So if you're running 1 extruder, you actually got 2 extra outputs here that you can use for fans or lights or whatever. And then 8 stepper driver slots. I am ordering adapter boards they have where you can, let's say you're only running a standard printer, you only have 4 drivers, well, you have 4 slots open. They have ones to give you more fan outputs if you want them to pop in here into an unused stepper slot. So we'll be doing a DIY config for this, meaning you can just walk through the setup of putting in your board, so do all your wiring and have an easier firmware setup. So that's something we're going to be doing for the Monster 8s. So, and MKS is one of the Chinese companies that knows how to make a good board that doesn't cut corners on the important stuff. So, all right. Does it have a jumper for sensorless homing? I believe it does support sensorless homing. I have not looked at the documentation. It does come with a pack of jumpers because there's a bunch of different options you can set. And you can also have different fan voltage outputs too. So you can do 5 volt, 12 volt, or whatever the input voltage is. So if you're running on a 24 volt printer, you can run 5 or 12 volt fans, and those are selectable on the headers here, which is really nice. So, but yeah, it definitely does support sensorless homing. How that gets implemented, that's something I'm going to be putting this board in a printer, working with it, testing the firmware on that, and then documenting all that stuff. So it'll be in our help center. So anyways, I'm going to try that compile one more time here and see if it bombs out, because you guys saw it work on the local compile here, which typically means it'll work on the our test site, because it all uses platform IO to compile. So I'm going to do that right now. All right. So let's get into the questions. That's what we're all here for. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions here. I had them open. Where are they? They're in. I got distracted. All right. Let's see here. All right, so the bot is working. So the first question we have, I see somebody, Krista put test. Yes, it's working. So the first question, John says, hi, Tim from Australia. Will you put an easy board into the Ender 6 at some stage? Yes, I will. My stock board is having all sorts of issues where the Z motor just stops working. I'm assuming it's overheating. It's a common issue with Creality's boards because they don't put enough copper on the boards. As for when that's going to happen, we've got a lot of stuff going on with Rocky Mountain Rep coming up that we're doing. We're getting our new booth designed and everything. I don't have a ton of time to do that. So eventually, yes, when it's going to happen, I couldn't tell you. So, CBAT says, or actually, before I move on to the next question, just so you guys are aware, if you guys are capable of swapping the board out and making sure all the connections are correct, the main thing on the Ender 6 is getting the end stop plugs onto the right pins, because I do have an easy board here. So on the signal pins here, on the X stop, Y stop, and Z stop, the pin 1, so the pin on the left, that is actually a ground pin. Now on the Ender 6, they share the ground pin for the end stop. So you got to make sure that when you're putting the plug in here, and I don't know if the stock configuration matches our plug order. It might or may not. We literally have a 50-50 shot. I haven't put in the printer, so I couldn't tell you if it does. But that's the main thing, is making sure you get the positives and the negatives right on the end stops. And then also, I believe, on the heater cartridge as well, there's also a shared pin on there. So it's not as easy. It's not as easily done as the other boards. But you can use our DIY firmware. So we do have, and I'll show that really quick. So let me load up a local copy of that really quick. Give me a second here. Let me make a local copy here. And I'll show you what our DIY firmware looks like for the EasyBoard V2. So give me one sec. And the thing is, all of our DIY firmwares, those are all going to be set up the same. So if you used it on one board, you will be able to use it on other boards. And that's kind of what I like to do, because then it's consistent across all of the different machines. So let me switch over here. So this is the, I'm going to reload VS Code. I did all those file changes while it was open. So let me reload it just so we don't encounter any weird issues. All right, so this is the DIY firmware for our EasyBoard. This is available on our website. If you go to the Help Center, it's the same setup. You open the configuration H file, and this walks you through. So make sure you read all of this. This will tell you what site or what LCDs to work with, or what LCDs it works with. And if you have the Ender 6 with the LCD kit, you can just plug that right in. You set your bed size, so your X, Y, and Z size, and then you just read here to change your motor direction. If you need to, basically you fire it up, flash the firmware, see what axis is moving the right way, which one's moving the wrong way. If one's moving the wrong way, you just change the false to a true. Same thing with the end stops. So you do the M119 test. So connect to the printer over the serial cable, or not serial cable, but USB port with something like Pronterface, and then you can go through and change the end stop. So basically, if you let's say your end stop's reporting open when you're pressing it and it should be triggered, you would just change this from a false to true. And it walks you through the setup here. So if you actually read here, it'll walk you through the setup. And then the homing direction. So like on the Ender 6, X on that one homes to max, and I believe Y does. I believe it homes to max on X and Y, if memory serves correct. Yeah, because the home position is in the back right corner. So that it homes a max on X and Y. So for the Ender 6, this would be a 1 for both of them. The steps per millimeter, these are pretty standard values. You could also look to get these values. You could look at our stock, like if you're doing on the Ender 6, you could look at the stock steps per millimeter value. I believe it's this. All these are accurate for the Ender 6 stock, except for the E steps on the stock extruder. I think the stock extruder is a little bit higher than 95. And then there, if you guys have used our firmware before, all this other stuff should be pretty familiar to you, because the goal is to basically have the ability to use our firmware on a DIY printer or a non-supported model, but still have the same experience on there. So we also have here to change what voltage it is. So you need to tell it if it's a 12 or 24 volt printer. On an Ender 6, it'd be a 24 volt, so you would uncomment that line, that kind of thing. And then if you're using a filament sensor, or if you're using a Creality sensor, the Ender 6 actually works with the stock sensor. Yeah, with the stock sensor, it actually works with our Easy Out V2 enable line, because it's the same logic. The stock Ender 6 sensor is the same logic as our Easy Out V2 sensors. And then there we have a sampling of different probe mounts as well. If you're using a probe mount that we have already set up, you can actually see all of them in the backend file. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but you can see what we name all the probe mounts here. They're at the very top under the ABL probe settings. And you can see all the different ones. So like here, Ender 6 Pets Fang, that's one, and that'll be in the Ender 6 firmware config. They're just not in the DIY config, because you can see it get very cluttered very quickly. But if you're using like the OEM mount, we already have that in there, so you can just copy this and then paste that in right where you want it here. Just do a define and then Ender 6 OEM, and that'll pull the backend files here. This should light up. VS Code takes a sec. Do you guys ever notice that the predictive like code doesn't always work? I don't know what the term they use for it, but basically if like something is enabled, it will sometimes light up the blocks of text, sometimes it won't. Don't know why, just something I've noticed. It's kind of frustrating, because normally if it was all working and doing stuff that it should, this block should light up because I put this in the configuration. So anyways, yeah, you can do the setup here, and then the Ender 6 is either going to use the Core XY or the Core YX setting. I believe it uses the Core YX. If you connect X to X and Y to Y, it's still technically a Core XY printer. It's just which plug or what driver the motors are mapped to. So I believe it's a Core YX in terms of the config. So we have those two options. So basically with this DIY firmware, you can set up everything for your printer, even if it's not a supported model. So, and I think I uncommented everything I need to do. I think the printer voltage is the last thing that it'll throw an error on if you don't, because we don't by default uncomment the printer voltage. Where was that? I think that was up here, wasn't it? Yeah, right here. So, but then it'll compile. You can also then upload, if you don't want to compile it on your computer, you can actually just edit this file with like something like Notepad++. So like I use Notepad++ here quite frequently. Yeah, you can also upload this to the Easy Firmware site. These DIY configs are compilable on the Easy Firmware site. I use the Easy Firmware site personally for when I'm doing just like random printer builds, but if I'm messing around with stuff, I'll just use VS Code on my computer here. But both of them are an option. You just don't have the DIY config on the Easy Firmware site, just because it'd be a lot to do, and we want to keep that site as simple as possible. But you can download that config file, edit it on your computer, and then upload it back to the Easy Firmware site to have our server compile it if you do like have a slow computer or VS Code isn't playing nicely, that kind of thing. So, and the Easy Firmware side of the DIY configs, those only work with our Easy boards. We won't be opening that up to other boards, just because we don't want to be paying for CPU time for products that are not, ours, so we don't want it to get overwhelmed. So anyways, yeah, so hopefully that gives you an insight. There's a lot of people using our board with the Ender 6 with the DIY config right now. So, yeah, but I like to actually test everything. I don't know if you guys saw me carry the SV1 Pro out. I like to physically test the code and the hardware on an actual machine before I tell everybody it's going to work, because I don't want to say that, yeah, this works perfectly, just pop it in there and update the code. I haven't done that. My Ender 6 that's behind me is still running the stock board. And like I said, it is having issues with the Z driver. I don't know if anybody who has Ender 6 has also experienced that. I think it's because mine is one of the newer revisions or one of the older revisions of the board, where it has the trinamic drivers on the X, Y, Z, and E. I've been told that the later board versions only have the trinamic drivers on the X and Y. And I suspect it's because they were having issues with the Z and the E drivers overheating on that machine. So I'm just speculating, but I have heard other people told me that their boards don't have silent drivers on the Z and E, but it's on the X and Y. All right. Let's see here. So CBET says, what are your thoughts on a large bed slinger style printers? Many companies making them now. What do you think the largest bed size that should be used in a bed slinger style printer? So I've dealt with a lot of big bed slingers. I have a couple of big bed slingers here. One being an AlphaWise U10 that I basically rebuilt. It's basically a custom machine at this point, but that's what it's based on. So that's a 400 by 400. And we also have the Anycubic Chiron. I also have built large bed slingers around the CR10S5 platform. And I feel like going past 400 is probably where I would say is the limit, because while you can do a big bed on a bed slinger, the problem is that bed becomes so heavy that you aren't going to get any sort of fast print speeds out of it. And the S5, while it's a good value for the build volume you get, it does come with its own set of issues. So if I had to be like, what would be the cutoff? I think 400 by 400 is like the biggest I would ever go on a bed slinger. Anything bigger than that, you should have something like, even just a card that, so like the Ender 5 Plus, a lot of people mistakenly think that that's a Core XY printer just because it's a cube. That's actually still the same Cartesian system that is on a bed slinger. The only difference is the bed on that drops down instead of the whole X gantry moving in the Z direction. So Crazy Tutra is asking, can easy ABL kits be used with Klipper? So I was actually just talking to somebody, and I want people to listen to this. So if you're asking that question, that tells me that you have not done enough research to be running Klipper in the first place. Because if you had done enough research and done enough reading on the Klipper documentation and the setup, you would know the answer is yes. But that is such a basic thing that if you don't know that, you haven't learned enough about Klipper itself to be messing with it yet. So, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just being real with you. If you don't know that and you have to ask that question, then you don't have enough knowledge to be messing with Klipper at this point. So, because it's just a standard probe. Our in terms of firmware setup, our probe acts like a normally open end stop switch. That's what it does. So, and I see people asking this all the time, and I know immediately as soon as somebody asks that question, they do not know enough about Klipper to be messing with it. Like, you need to do more research, you need to read up, watch more videos, whatever that may be. Because when people ask questions about like the AZABL kits or even like certain LCDs, like you would know that the answer is yes, those things do work with Klipper. So it's kind of a giveaway. I don't when people ask a question like that. So I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, if you're asking that question, you have not done enough research to understand what's involved with that setup. So our EasyABL kits work with basically any 3D printer firmware that supports an auto bed leveling probe. So RAP firmware on the Duet boards, Marlin firmware on whatever boards that are out there. It works on Klipper. But the thing is, if you buy an EasyABL kit and you are trying to run it on Klipper, you will be on your own in terms of technical support, because we only support using our Unified 2 firmware and certain setups with Marlin, because Klipper is so hard to set up. Klipper is not a beginner's firmware. It's not. It's for people that want to tinker with the printer and they want to spend hours playing and tweaking and tuning. If you just want your printer to work, I would recommend staying away from Klipper. So, and if you ask questions, like in my experience has been, if you ask a question like that, if you go, hey, I'm setting up you can call it an inductive probe you want. It's not actually an inductive probe, but most people know those types of probes as inductive probes. If you go and ask that in the Klipper Discord, you're probably going to get a bunch of people talking down to you. So just a fair warning. And yeah. So read their documentation. They have a whole section on probe setup. Basically, you need to tell it what pin you're connected to. So you got to find out the end stop pin that your board's on, or not board's on, the end stop pin that your board uses. Sometimes they'll have boards that have example configurations. One of the things I tried to do with our easy boards, we tried to submit a configuration with example setups with an EasyABL. They were all commented out, so they didn't do anything unless you uncommented them. And the guy that maintains Klipper, Kevin, I think it's Kevin O'Connor, I know it's Kevin something. He didn't like that we had examples in there. It's almost like he wants people to have to struggle and read the documentation versus, us, who's literally a vendor. We make the boards. Submitting an example configuration with certain things pre-set up for you, he wouldn't let us do that. So that's one of the reasons we also don't deal with Klipper, is just the people that run it have this like superiority complex that don't want to make things easier for people. It's like they're almost gatekeeping to keep new people out and make it this like exclusive little club that you got to be, jump through all these hoops just to use their software instead of trying to make it easier. But that's something I can rant about for a while, so we're not going to turn that into a rant. Peter Anderson, is a Tina 2 uploaded to GitHub? Yes, I told you last stream I was doing it. It was up there. This is over a week. It's on our site. You can go download it. The fixed version of that is up there. Wesley Phillips says you consider going to the Linus Tech Expo. He said it'll provide travel and board for creators interested in participating. Honestly, I don't think we're big enough for them to even care, to be completely honest. I doubt they even know who we are. All right, Nicholas Hennis said the best model SD card to buy for 3D printers, the one that came with my CR6 SE keeps needing reformatting. Yeah, it's probably one of those NETAC cards. I've thrown out so many of them because they just stopped working. I mean, we carry a basic G code or basic SD card. It's a 4 gig card. My experience with the printers has been the smaller capacities are going to work better with the printers in terms of board compatibility. Do not go over 32 gigs. Most boards will not read a card bigger than 32 gigs. I recommend staying in like the 1 to 8 gig size. We do carry, like I said, 4 gig cards. I'll post a link in the chat. And they're also FAT32 formatted by default. I'm grabbing the link right now. So, but yeah, typically smaller cards I've had less issues with. I'm not saying that the bigger cards won't work. I'm just giving my experiences that larger cards, I've had more issues with larger cards not reading, having weird issues with corruption with G-code. And then, you know, if you're not going to buy a card from us, go with something from a name brand company. Don't buy off-brand cards. You can get something from PNY, SanDisk, Kingston, Patriot Memory. I know I'm forgetting some. Micro Centers cards, they're cheap, but they suck. They suck. You get what you pay for. I'm trying to remember what other brands. PNY, Kingston, SanDisk, Patriot Memory. Those are like the 4 I stick to when I'm buying cards. Outside of that, I typically don't buy other brands just because most of the other ones are going to be like weird, you know, no-name Chinese brands, and who knows the quality. The other thing too is be careful when buying on Amazon, specifically with like SanDisk brands. There's a lot of companies selling fake SanDisk cards on there. So if you're gonna go buy a card, I would probably either, if you're not gonna get one from us, go to like Best Buy or something, like an actual store. You're not gonna get fake cards from somewhere like Best Buy. So yeah, Samsung, I don't know why Samsung stuck in my mind, but also Samsung cards also I've gotten counterfeit Samsung cards from Amazon. So if you want to go buy a card, go get it from the store and buy a name brand. You know, if you're going to order something online, like I said, we do have ours. They're only a couple bucks. I didn't even look at the price. They're $4.50 for a 4 gig card. So, yeah, Gigastone. I actually have a Gigastone from something. I think it came with a printer, but that's also just an off brand. They're not a name brand. For me, I've had too many issues with off-brand SD cards. It's not worth the hassle. I'll spend a couple extra bucks. If I need a bigger capacity one, I'll go with one of the name brands I mentioned. If I'm printing off of a SD card, which is very rarely, I usually will use ours. Like if we're at events or something, we'll usually use SD cards on the printers at the booths. So, yeah. All right. And that's all the questions. You guys don't have any questions. You're relatively quiet today. Is it because we had a rough start? Like, is that it? You know what I might do? I might unbox that other I might unbox that other Tina 2 I have sitting here that I'm going to be giving to my mother. Why don't we do that? Let's see. I'll at least get it out of the box so I can so then it's open and it's staring me in the face, and I can put that bed heater that Peter sent me on there. Why are we not turning on? Is this seriously the day of technical issues? My camera's not turning on. Why are we not turning on? Okay, apparently I just had to reseat the battery pack. All right, let me go grab that. Boom. Let's see. Now, we've already unboxed the Tina 2. I bought another one because I liked it so much, because I thought it would be a good little printer to give to my mother to learn 3D printing. So I'm going to just unbox this real quick. I do see some question here. SKL's asking, did you get the EasyBoard working on the SVO6? Yes, Krista has the SVO6, and it is running the EasyBoard V2. That is officially supported. All right, let's go and see what's in this. We're gonna, I mean, I know what's in this. This is the regular one. I did not buy the Wi-Fi one. They sent us the Wi-Fi one, and their Wi-Fi module is garbage. So, all right. Oh, hey, look it. I think that might be a knockoff. This SD card. Either that or it's like very used. We're just talking about knockoff SD cards and is this used like old stock, or is this a knockoff? Because that lettering is garbage. Oh man. Yeah, let's see. Come on, focus. That's a little sus. I don't know. Maybe it's like a used card. Alrighty then. What are the chances? Get a sus SD card after just talking about SD cards and the ones that come with the printers being garbage. It's kind of sus. All right. There we go. We got the power brick. This is like kind of tossed in here. Did I get... I swear to God. I'm looking to see if this has an LPN label on it, because this was purchased through Amazon. It does not. Okay. It's just dusty from the packaging. Yeah, no, it's new. Okay. I was about to say, I was like, I bought this a couple months ago. Look how cute it is. This one does not have a screwed up lead screw coupler. That one's all nice. And you know what? I like that on the basic model. You guys remember on the Wi-Fi one, if you guys caught that stream, it had this big guard over it. I hated it. So like, not only is this cheaper, but there's no Wi-Fi module. Everything else is basically the same. There's no Wi-Fi module and there's no guard in front of here. I much rather have this exposed. This is so much. Isn't this nicer to work on and see? Like, we're gonna peel that off. I'm gonna check the chat in a second and see if we have any questions while we've been waiting. I busted this out because we were out of questions, and it's on my to-do list. So let's see. When I did the Wi-Fi one, it was actually really good. The only issue I had with the machine was the Z coupler was all stretched out, so I replaced that. They did, I'll give them credit, they did offer to send me a replacement, and I was like, no, it's all good, because we have nicer couplers that we sell. I was like, I just wanted to let you know, and I was curious to see what you guys would do in the event that somebody had a problem. All right. So it's plugged in. Oh, there's a switch on here. There we go. Is it going to work out of the box? I think so. I think so. I think it's going to work out of the box. All right. English. Load filament. Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's got a nice little... They did like a little wizard on here. I'm not gonna punish myself by using this. We're gonna throw that out. I know I have a tiny spool around here. Oh, it's right here. I was like, I know I have a mini spool sitting here. Oh wait, I gotta put the PTFE tube in. It's so cute. Come on. I know you gotta come out of here. Come on, you can do it. There it is. Boop. All right. Let's go ahead and load this. Why do these printers always have like a weird smell? All right, so that's loaded. Next. Now it's going to heat the nozzle. All right, let's check questions. We're on a little test print. And then, like I said, now it's out of the box. And it's on my bench, so now I got to get it. Now I got to get it done. All right, let's see what questions we have. We got a couple. Bones49 said, what in printer enclosure we go with the S for the SV03? What is the SV03? That's the larger one, isn't that? If memory serves correctly. Yeah, that's the larger one. And I believe you got to measure it. We are out of stock on them, but you can find them elsewhere if you look. But I believe the Creality large enclosures will fit those. We have the small enclosures. I just posted a link in the chat, but that one has it. And there's the inner size and the outer size listed on our product page. So if you guys want to check that out, that's probably what I would see if that fits in there. I think that printer would fit in there because I had the SV03. What did I do with my SV03? Oh, I gave it to a buddy of mine. That's why I don't have it anymore. How much is the Tina 2? I want to say, wasn't it just... I'm going to double check because it probably changed. Hang on, let me see. And I would get the regular Tina 2 if you're going to get it. They're $160. And here's the thing. They have an auto bed leveling sensor on them. Their firmware is actually decent. They actually provide the source code. I can definitely recommend it for a beginner printer, but don't buy the Wi-Fi one. Don't buy the Wi-Fi one. The Wi-Fi is utterly useless. It's some crappy Chinese app, but everything else has been pretty good. There you go. There's an Amazon affiliate link for it. That's where I bought it from. When did I buy this one? Let's see. I bought this one August 2022. So that's how long I've had this one. So there you go. Insert button. Okay, so it's probably going to purge out. The extruder is working. And we do have filament coming out the nozzle. Like I said, it's not the best printer in terms of like features, but for beginners, I think this is a really nice printer for beginners. I still think so, even though it doesn't have a heated bed, but it's got auto level and the stock firmware actually worked really well. So, you know, you're paying a little bit more than you would for like, or not a little more, you're not paying really more for an Ender 3. Ender 3s are about the same price. You're getting less printer, but for somebody to start out and get their feet wet, I do think this is a nice little machine. So, I do know they have a test print, so I'm going to have it run the test print and just do the basic testing. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put a heated bed on here. Peter sent me a heater, which, it's right here. He sent me a heater here, and it's almost the perfect size. I'm probably going to have the bed wires come out the back, and I'll probably run a separate power supply. It's so cute. And it does have a little, like, it's just a magnet. That's all it is, a magnet with tape on it. So it's very simple, but I do want to modify it. Like I said, for a basic printer, I do actually really like these little machines. So yeah. Anyways, let's see here. TN2, thoughts on the Voron printers? If you want to spend 12 plus hours building a printer and having to hunt parts down and print a ton of stuff, they're great if you want a project. Me personally, I would rather take a Chinese printer and spend a couple hours with it, put some upgrades on it, and call it a day. The Vorons are for people who like to tinker with the printer. That's it. Let's see. HD's asking, will the SKR E3 Mini V3 work with the Ender 3 Max Neo? So the Ender 3 Max Neo is basically an Ender 3 with a BL Touch slapped on it. So if you did the wiring and set the firmware up correctly, yeah, you can do it. I think our firmware that we have supports Ender 3 Max already. Let me double check before I say the wrong thing. I'm going to pull up my config files here. Give me 1 second here. I believe we have the Max support already on the E3 V3. So basically you would tell it you have a Max and then set up the BL Touch. So yeah, we do. So here, I'll switch over. So this is the configuration file for our SKR E3 Mini V3 board, and we have Ender 3 Max. So if memory serves correct, the Ender 3 Max Neo, the difference is the BL Touch. Did they change the screen on that? Someone chime in? I'll just look it up here. Ender 3 Max Neo. Can't remember if they put those damn color screens on there. I think they might have. That's the Max Neo. Yeah, so they put these on. So I have it working on the 422 and the 427 boards. I believe these, I don't know if these would work with, if this screen was. So if you change the screen out and told it you have the BL Touch, then you could use our firmware as is. I don't know if these screens work out of the box with the SCare E3 Mini. I think they do. I don't know if they do. Because the Ender 3 V2 also has that same screen, and I'm noticing in here we don't have the Ender 3 V2 in here. I think they might not support those screens. I'll have to test it. I'll make a note and test. Because if that's the case, then we can get it. Because I have those screens and I have those boards. So even though I don't have that specific printer here, I can still test it and do the code. Because everything else is the same on the 3 Max except for the screen. So it's the screen and the CR Touch pre-installed. So if you wanted it easier, you switch the screen out for a 12864. Then basically all you got to do is tell it it's an Ender 3 Max and tell it you have a BL Touch. Because the CR Touch is a BL Touch. In terms of all the setup and stuff and the wiring, it's all the same. Corelli knocked it off. Yeah, and there's different variations of the screen. That's the other thing too. If you have a printer, and we have a support article about that, so I'll pull that up too. Because certain screens you cannot update. Like they're not supported with Marlin, they're not supported with Klipper or anything. Like those color screens don't work with Klipper anyways. So if you guys want to play with Klipper and have a screen on the printer, the 12864 is the best one to do if you want a screen that's driven off of the control board. But I will show you here. So if I type DACI DACI, so here, there's 3 different screens, and we have pictures of these. These are actual pictures that I took. So the Vue ones, these you can't do anything with. So if you have a Vue screen on your Corelli printer, whether that's the Ender 3 V2, the Max Neo, the 3 V2 Neo, the 3 Neo, that has these screens, you cannot update the firmware on this. You're shit out of luck. If you have a DWin or a DACI screen, you can update it and use it. So yeah, there's multiple printers. The Neos use these as well. They use the same parts, but these Vue ones, if you have this, it's useless. There's no updates for it. And the guy, David Menzel from Insanity Automation, he works with these screens. He has not got it working either. So I'm in constant contact with him. So as he makes updates to these, we try to port it into our firmware so you guys can have support. But right now, only the DWin and the DACI screens are supported. So if you have the Vue one, you just basically take the back of the screen off, compare it. I have both of them here. Literally in my drawer here, I keep that stuff around. So, for example, here, so that's why I said I can test to see if the firmware works, because this is a DACI, or this is a DWin, and this is a DACI. They look very similar. This came off my Ender 3 V2. This came off my Ender 3 S1, but they're interchangeable. So this one here is a DACI screen. So this is how the back of those look. See, it's got that F1C100S chip there, and just look at the general layout. Okay, and then if I take the back panel off of this one, and I did take the sticker off of this, but this is what the DWins look like. So you can see side by side, they look very different. So, but you have to take the back panel off. So if you have the DWin or the DACI, you can use Marlin with it. If you have the Vue one, you're just out of luck because they're not supported. So I don't know if they will be, but we don't mess with those because it's not worth it. That's why we have the LCD conversion kits. So you can switch those out. So basically, if you switch out the screen on there, you could use our firmware that's already out. I will test to see if the DWin and the DACI screens work on the E3 V3. E3 Mini V3. I hate their model names. I'll see, but it might be like our EasyBoard V2. You can't use those screens with it because those screens use a different pin setting than the 12864. So like if you have, this screen, if you have one of these screens, you want to use it with the EasyBoard V1 or V2, these will not work because the pins that these use are actually not even, one of the 2 pins it needs to communicate with the board is not even hooked up. And I don't know if Big Tree Tech did the same thing on theirs. I feel like theirs might be the same kind of situation, but I'll have to look at the pin files and see what they have documented, if those pins are there. If they are, I can probably get it working. If not, it might be the same with our EasyBoards, where you just have to go with a 12864 screen. Personally, I think the 12864 screens are the way to go just because they always work. The problem is with these, as Marlin updates code, these tend to break, meaning they won't work correctly until somebody patches the code. I actually just had to push a patch for the dock eye screens where it was like ghosting letters and stuff. They're just, it's a hacky workaround to get them to work. Whereas the 12864 screens, so like, but all sorts of screens here, am I supposed? So like these style screens, these are all natively supported in Marlin, and I have, knock on wood, I have not ever had any code changes or updates break functionality of those screens. So, all right, let's see. Oh yeah, we were looking at the Tina 2. Zachary Teller is asking, how does one update my unified firmware and keep my current settings? Just compare the two files and copy the changes over. There's no like updater. You have to manually do it. Peter's asking, how would I go about attaching the heater onto the Tina 2? I don't know. I'll figure it out. John is asking, are Remo and Comet going to take a part in your wedding? Probably. We're talking about it. Is the Tina 2 bed metal and able to accept a heater? So the carriage plate is metal. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. So, Seabet says, Tina 2 or Ender 2 Pro, I can only pick one. I would go with the Ender 2 Pro. But the Ender 2 Pro is not going to be as user-friendly. It's a good little printer. I like it. The only problem is the newer Ender 2 Pros, I don't know if they switch back, but as far as I know, the newer Ender 2 Pros are coming with those HC32 CPUs that nobody's been able to get firmware working for. So the source code's available, but you need to use a specific IDE that's a commercial IDE. I think it's like Kiel or something, K-I-E-L or K-E-I-L. So yeah, if you want to do updates to the firmware with Ender 2 Pro and you have HC32, you're basically going to have to replace the board. So, all right. Let's see. I'm gonna hit continue. Insert SD card. Okay. There's a little. It says ring 10-minute. So I'm assuming it's a 10-minute test file. So I believe what impressed me so much on this one is that it actually did all the A/B Hone stuff, and it just worked the first time. Like I didn't even have to adjust anything. So they did a really good job at setting everything up. The Z homing is very slow. All right. Someone's saying about the Meanwhile power supply. Yeah, the Neos. Yeah, you're basically, you're not going to get Meanwhile power supplies on Creality printers anymore, sadly. I'm sure there are some people going to be like, well, actually, it seems like Creality has switched over to not using Meanwhiles on any other machines these days. So just be aware of that. And it says, actually, he said, also no more Gates belts. I got generic GT2 belts. So maybe an unpopular opinion, I know Gates belts are good, but I've also been using generic belts on printers for years, and they work just fine. There are some crap ones, but as long as you get like decent quality belts, which Creality typically does, they typically will last a while. So, all right. Is this still oh, I was like, why is it not heating? So it took the auto bed level, and now it's waiting for the nozzle to heat back up. 49,710 days, 6 hours and 5 minutes. I think the time estimate might be a little bit off. What do you guys think? It said this was going to be a 10-minute print. It's such a cute little printer. It's just got this tiny little power brick. What is this? I think it's yeah, a little 12 volt 5 amp power brick. So it is actually UL listed power supply. So, you know, I guess that's good. All right, there we go. Now it's going to print. I don't think when I did the video, I don't think I had to touch it. I think it actually just worked pretty well. Okay, so there is no baby stepping on the stock firmware. I feel like I remember that. Oh, I can live adjust the Z though. You just go into the Z offset setting and it is adjusting the Z. Like their stock firmware is not great, but it's not bad. But we'll just let that go. That'd be so entertaining. If you guys want to ask a couple more questions, we do have time for a couple more. Look at that, a printer that works out of the box. It's amazing. All right. Flash the firmware. I will put our firmware on here. I think I'm going to give my mom a printer with stock firmware. Dear God, I love her. I don't hate her. I would not give her a printer with stock firmware. Absolutely not. Oh. All right. I'm gonna look into Solo SV06 Plus. Seems like a decent machine. We have one on pre-order. So our SV01, or not 01, 06. Krista has that, and it's actually been running great. So she's been using it and hasn't bothered me about anything with it. So I'm assuming it works. So I actually have. I'll pull it up here. No, don't load TikTok. Why are we loading TikTok? So I have her printers added here, the cameras to Home Assistant, but I can bring up her actual Octoprint instance for that one. Because I believe there's a time lapse on here. Let's see. Yeah, so she got all the new toys. So she got the SV06, and then this is the new Easy Pi R4 Plus. Let me see. Yeah, so there we go. We got time lapses here. So let's see how these two print. So these are wall mounts for the Reverb G2 VR headset. So there we go. It's like magic. Look at that. Yep, there we go. That one came out pretty good. And then I think these are the wall. Yeah, so these are the wall mounts for the controllers. There we go. Couple little boogers here. I gotta tune the profile a little bit, but yeah, it's been a good printer. It's been working really well. So no complaints there. All right, let's check. Are there any other questions before I wrap this up? Oh, can I room with you in Colorado? I don't know. Maybe. I can't remember how many rooms we booked. I think we booked 2, if memory serves correct. Are you actually going to Colorado, man? I'd be curious. That'd be a fun weekend. So, all right. Well, this is a very quiet stream today. I'm sorry about the rough start. I don't know what the hell. Freaking YouTube was on where it wasn't letting me go live, but I apologize for that. I was literally sitting here like refreshing, stopping streaming on OBS, starting streaming on OBS. I'm like, why is this not connecting? But I only have one little goober here, which is why it's quiet. You know, so there's no dogs being yelled at today. Because we just have the old man. Although I will give Comic credit. When it's just him, he does lay down. But these two just like screwing with each other all the time. Do you want a snacky? Do you want a little snacky to wrap the stream up? You gotta come here. Come on, up. Up. Good boy. Good boy. You see his little bandana? Look how handsome. Come on. Come here. You want the other one? Come here. You gotta show people your cute little bandana. No, we're gonna sit. I'm sorry, he's sitting off screen. Come here. Come on, up. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, look at your little bandana. He's such a handsome boy. He just woke up. Can you guys tell? All right. I see Joe, before we go, I'll answer this. When will the Easy Boards be back in stock? We do have it on the page at the very top. We're looking at like the first or second week of April. So it could be sooner, but I'd like to give you guys ETAs that have a little bit of padding on them just in case things do get delayed, because as you know, shipping has been absolutely terrible these last couple of last couple of years. Let's just be honest. So anyways, I'm going to let this finish this little test print. There we go. Got one more printer unboxed. And we do have one more printer to review. It's that box right over there on the bottom shelf. You guys see that? That's the Sunlu S8 Pro that we bought. So we're going to be doing that, getting firmware tested on there, because we do have firmware for the S8 already, but I guess the S8 Pro has a slightly different board in it, so we might have to do a slight variation on the firmware. So I bought it to test it. So if you guys have an S8 Pro, we will be coming out with firmware shortly after we do the video review. I'm probably not going to have time to do it this week because I do have an event this weekend that I'm going to. But I'm thinking next week, probably at the end of next week or early next week, either before or after the Wednesday stream, I'll be doing the video unboxing that and testing it. So, all right, everybody. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We do these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time. If you guys want to hang out with other people that are into 3D printing, you can check out our Discord server. You can go to discord.th3dstudio.com and you can hang out, and there's a bunch of awesome people in there, and we got all sorts of fun stuff to do in there. So anyways, I will see you guys on the next one, and as always, happy printing. Talk to you guys later.